Rain hammered against the glass doors of an upscale downtown diner, each drop a tiny fist demanding entry. Inside, beneath warm light that made the world outside seem impossibly dark, a man in a $1,000 suit stood frozen at the register. His hands hung empty at his sides, pale fingers still searching pockets that had already been checked 3 times. Behind him, impatient customers murmured, first with confusion, then with that particular edge that comes when someone else's crisis threatens to delay your evening. The cashier's finger hovered over the phone, ready to call security. The man who controlled boardrooms across 3 continents, who signed contracts worth more than most people would earn in 10 lifetimes, could not pay for a $12 meal. One moment of vulnerability, one choice by a stranger. Everything, reputation, dignity, fate itself, hung in the balance of $15 and the courage to bridge the gap between 2 worlds that should never have touched. What brought a billionaire to his knees in a place like this? Why would a waitress sacrifice her last money for someone she'd never see again? And why, 24 hours later, would her entire world shatter and rebuild in ways no one could predict? To understand that moment, and the mansion that followed, we must go back to where kindness first took root, in a place most would never notice. The moment stretched like taffy, pulled too thin. James Hartwell, though no one in that diner knew his name, stood at the register at exactly 7:47 on a Thursday evening, autumn rain streaking neon reflections across the wet pavement outside. Inside, coffee steam rose from dozens of cups. Silverware clinked against cheap ceramic plates. The ordinary symphony of people finishing their shifts, grabbing dinner before heading home to apartments where the radiators clanged and televisions provided the only company. James's expensive coat dripped onto the black and white checkered floor. Empty pockets, no wallet, no phone, no cards. The impossibility of it sat in his throat like a stone. The cashier's expression shifted from confusion to suspicion. She'd seen this before, the well-dressed con artist trying to slip out without paying. A businessman in a corner booth lowered his newspaper, watching. A couple near the window whispered to each other, that delicious scandal of witnessing someone else's humiliation. The security guard by the door straightened his posture, ready to become part of the story. Time does strange things when shame enters a room. Each second became another crack in dignity, another whisper in the growing audience. James's hand trembled slightly as he checked his pockets again, knowing they were empty, but unable to stop the desperate ritual. His mind raced through the evening, the meeting that ran late, the rushed exit from the office, the decision to walk instead of taking the car, the unexpected rain, the impulsive stop at this diner, because it looked warm, and he suddenly couldn't remember the last time he'd eaten anywhere that didn't require a reservation. Then she appeared. Maya Rodriguez stepped from behind the counter, 28 years old, polyester uniform the color of faded coral, eyes that carried a particular kind of tired that comes from double shifts and dreams deferred. She reached into her apron pocket without hesitation, fingers finding the small folded envelope she kept there. Her tips for the week. $15.37. She placed it on the counter without a word, without pity, without judgment. Just human to human. Just one person seeing another when the world had decided to look away. James looked at her, really looked, for the first time since entering. She met his gaze steadily. Rain pounded harder against the windows, as if the storm itself wanted to be part of this moment. The wallet slipped from James's wet coat pocket then, hitting the floor with a sound softer than anyone expected. He didn't notice. Maya bent down, picked it up, and handed it to him. Their fingers brushed. Inside the wallet, barely visible through the worn leather, a faded photograph caught the light. A young woman holding a baby, sunshine behind them, edges worn soft from years of touching. But that was only the beginning. Within 24 hours, that small act of kindness would expose 3 buried betrayals, shatter 2 families, and prove that mercy has a memory longer than hate. To understand why Maya lived in a basement apartment and counted pennies, we must travel back 17 years to a snowy morning when she learned what kindness really costs. The town was called Maplewood, population 4,200, the kind of place where everyone knew your business, but pretended they didn't. Maya, 11 years old, walked to school through fresh snow that squeaked under her second-hand boots. Her mother, Sophia, worked 2 jobs, diner waitress by day, office cleaner by night. Their apartment had 1 bedroom, walls that showed cracks like the lines in an aging face, but Sophia kept it clean, always clean. She had a philosophy she repeated like a prayer. We may not have much, but we have our hands, and hands that help are never empty. That morning, old Mr. Chen collapsed outside the corner grocery. Other shoppers hurried past, late for work, eyes sliding away from the inconvenience of someone else's emergency. But Sophia stopped. She always stopped. She knelt in the snow beside the old man, 11-year-old Maya beside her, and they waited with him until the ambulance arrived. 15 minutes that stretched into 30. Sophia missed her morning shift, lost half a day's pay. That evening, Maya watched her mother count coins at the kitchen table, lamplight making shadows dance across her worried face. They were $53 short for rent. Maya's father had left when she was 7. Daniel Rodriguez promised to send money, promised to visit, promised that distance didn't mean disappearing. He sent none, visited never, and disappeared so completely they might have imagined him. Years later, they learned he'd remarried, started a new family in Phoenix, children who got the version of him that remembered birthdays and showed up for school plays. Maya stopped waiting by the mailbox. Sophia never spoke bitterly, just worked harder. The lesson settled into Maya's bones. People leave, but your character stays. Choose it carefully. Maya grew up in diners, doing homework in corner booths while her mother refilled coffee for strangers. She learned to read faces, to anticipate needs, to move through spaces invisibly. She watched her mother age faster than she should, watched dreams postponed, and then quietly buried. Scholarships almost happened, always $50 short, $100, $200. The gap between reaching and grasping proved insurmountable. Dreams of nursing school faded into the practical business of survival. 3 years ago, hospital pneumonia spread too fast through Sophia's lungs. Maya, 25 years old, held her mother's hand as machines beeped their mechanical sympathy. Sophia's last words came in a whisper that Maya had to lean close to hear. "You have my hands now. Use them well." Funeral costs devoured the tiny savings. Maya inherited 1 box of photographs, her mother's wedding ring worn thin, and a philosophy of helping strangers even when, especially when, it cost something. Now Maya worked double shifts at Metropolitan Diner downtown, lived in a basement apartment in the Bronx, where pipes clanged their midnight songs and the radiator hissed like a temperamental cat. Tuesday nights, she volunteered at the community kitchen. Weekend mornings, she brought coffee to the homeless man who sat outside the subway entrance, his cardboard sign polite in its desperation. She saved tips in envelopes labeled with hope: rent, food, emergency, dream. The dream envelope never grew, always emptied for someone else's crisis, someone else's need that seemed more urgent than her own postponed future. She was 28, and invisible to most of the world, but her mother's choice that snowy morning, to stop for Mr. Chen, despite the cost, had planted something in Maya. Not martyrdom, not sainthood, just a simple belief that seeing someone is the first act of love. She didn't know it yet, but that belief was about to become her salvation. Years had built a wall between that snowy morning and this rainy evening, brick by brick, disappointment by disappointment. And on this particular Thursday, Maya's philosophy would collide with a world that had forgotten how to see. She would give her last $15 to a stranger who held the power to change everything. If only he knew what he was really looking for. The morning after the diner, James Hartwell sat in his penthouse office on the 47th floor. Manhattan's skyline spread before him like a kingdom he'd conquered, but never learned to love. Hartwell Industries, tech empire, 12,000 employees, worth billions in the abstract way that wealth becomes when numbers grow too large for meaning. James, 51 years old, arrived before sunrise as he always did, but this morning he couldn't focus on the reports waiting for his signature. The wallet rested on his desk, still damp from rain. He opened it slowly, reverently. Credit cards that could buy anything. Cash that had become decorative. One photograph. The photograph showed a young woman holding a baby, sunshine behind them creating a halo neither would have claimed. His late wife Catherine and their daughter Emma, 23 years ago, when love was simple and his hands knew how to hold something other than a pen. The edges had worn soft from years of touching, from nights when sleep wouldn't come, and memory was the only companion willing to stay. James asked his assistant to find out everything about the woman from the diner. By 10 in the morning, he had Maya's name, address, work schedule, life history reduced to bullet points on a screen. No father, dead mother, no debt, no criminal record, no social media presence, a ghost who helped strangers. He read the details twice, then a third time, searching for the catch, the angle, the reason someone would give away their last money. Found none. Something stirred in him, a memory of being human before becoming a corporation. His brother-in-law Richard Preston entered the office at noon, bringing the scent of expensive cologne and calculation. Richard served as CFO of Hartwell Industries, married to James's sister Victoria. Cold handshakes and colder ambitions. They discussed quarterly reports, discrepancies that Richard wanted to discuss privately, concerns that floated in the air like smoke. James waved it off, distracted by thoughts of the diner, the waitress, the kindness that expected nothing in return. Richard's eyes narrowed with something that might have been concern, or might have been something darker. He paused at the door before leaving, delivered the kind of line that sounds like comfort, but feels like a threat. We're family, James. Trust is everything. That evening, James returned to the diner. He sat in a corner booth, ordered coffee, and watched Maya work. She moved between tables like water finding its path, silent, efficient, essential. She remembered how people took their coffee, asked after the elderly man's grandchildren, brought crayons without being asked when a mother with toddlers sat down, looking overwhelmed. She didn't recognize James from the night before. He'd been just another face in crisis, and she'd moved on to the next person who needed seeing. He left a $100 tip under his cup. Maya found it, looked around confused, took it to the register insisting someone had left too much. The cashier laughed. Maybe you got lucky. Maya split it anyway. 50 to the kitchen staff, 50 to her dream envelope. James watched from the street outside. Rain stopped, but puddles reflecting city lights in broken mirrors. He saw her through the glass dividing their worlds, saw her give away luck the way some people give away breath. Rumors began that evening, whispered between the other waitress and the cook, spreading like mold in a damp space. Did you see that? Maya and that suit? She's chasing money now. Guess helping him paid off. Always knew she was too good to be true. Maya heard fragments, said nothing. Shame was a language she'd learned young, and silence was the only defense that never failed. James crossed the street, entered the diner again, sat at the counter. Maya approached with her order pad. He thanked her for the night before. Recognition dawned slowly in her eyes. Oh, you're welcome. Did you find what you needed? He told her he was beginning to think he did. Then he slid a business card across the counter. James Hartwell, CEO, Hartwell Industries. Maya's hands stilled. Billionaire. The man she'd given her last money to could buy and sell her neighborhood without noticing the expense. He asked her to lunch the next day, said he wanted to show her something. She searched his face for the trap, the catch, the cost, found only sincerity mixed with something that looked like grief wearing an expensive suit. She asked why. He told her, "Because you saw me when I was invisible, I'd like to return the favor." By closing time, the gossip had grown teeth. James drove home through streets slick with recent rain, his phone showing 17 missed calls from Richard. One voicemail, voice tight with urgency. "James, if you don't call back, I'm taking this to the board. Some things can't wait." James deleted it. At home, he opened his safe, found the letter he'd been avoiding for 3 years. Catherine's handwriting on the envelope. "Open only when you're ready to see the truth." He'd never been ready. He held it to the light that night, still didn't open it. Not yet. Wind picked up outside. Storm clouds gathered over Manhattan. The barometric pressure dropped. Something was coming. Saturday morning arrived with the weight of decisions made and consequences waiting. James sent a car for Maya. Black sedan with a driver in uniform. She felt like an imposter in the leatherback seat, watching the city change from broken to polished as they drove. Hartwell Industries' headquarters rose like a glass monument to ambition. Marble lobby, security that scanned her like a potential threat. James met her personally at the elevator, thanked her for coming. She admitted she'd almost stayed home. He showed her the empire, 47th floor, trading floors where money moved in rivers too fast to see, tech labs where the future was being assembled by people younger than her. Maya stayed quiet, overwhelmed by the scale of what one person could own. James stopped at a portrait wall showing company history, pointed to one photograph, a woman and a little girl, sunshine creating halos, my wife Catherine and my daughter Emma, 23 years ago. Maya leaned closer. The same photo from his wallet. She told him they were beautiful. He corrected her. They were everything. The story spilled out then. Catherine died 3 years ago. Cancer that moved fast. Emma was alive, but they hadn't spoken in 2 years. Maya asked why with the directness of someone used to getting to the heart of pain. James told her, "Because I failed them. Built this empire and lost what mattered." Emma accused him of loving money more than family. The argument had been vicious, final. She left, changed her number, disappeared into the city that swallowed people who wanted to be lost. Maya saw it then. The wealth was a prison, and James had built his own cell. James's assistant interrupted. The board meeting had been moved up. They were waiting. James's face darkened. He hadn't called a meeting. Richard Preston had, claiming urgency that couldn't wait. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt like descending into cold water. The boardroom held 12 people around mahogany worth more than Maya's annual salary. Richard stood at the head, smile sharp as a blade, hidden in a sleeve. Victoria, James's sister, wouldn't meet his eyes. Richard welcomed them with false warmth, noted James's guest with pointed emphasis, explained he'd called this emergency meeting due to concerns about James's recent behavior and judgment. James asked him to explain. Richard opened a folder, projected documents onto the screen. 3 years ago, when Catherine died, James had made certain changes to his estate. Created a trust, $500 million, designated for charitable distribution at CEO discretion. The board murmured like a disturbed hive. Richard continued with the precision of someone who'd rehearsed this moment. "We've learned you intend to give this money, company assets, to her." He pointed at Maya. Maya's stomach dropped through the floor. James's voice turned to ice. "Those documents are private. How did you access them?" Richard claimed it was his job as CFO to protect the company from erratic decisions. Victoria finally spoke, voice breaking. "James, we're worried about you. First Catherine's death, then the isolation, now this stranger." Maya stood to leave. James told her to stay, said she deserved to hear this. He pulled the sealed envelope from his jacket, Catherine's letter he'd carried for 3 years without opening. His hands shook as he broke the seal. Read silently first, face draining of color. Then aloud, voice cracking on his dead wife's words. Catherine had written 3 things. First, "Emma is not angry at you. She's afraid of becoming you. Teach her that money serves life, not the reverse. Second, I've watched you become a machine. The man I married saw people, find him again. Third, I've established the trust for one purpose, to give you permission to be human. When you meet someone who sees you, not your wealth, not your power, just you. Give them what they need most, not as charity, as recognition." James looked up, tears streaming down his face in front of the board he'd led for 15 years. Told them, "The day before she died, Catherine made me promise I would do this. I didn't understand until 2 nights ago, standing in a diner, helpless and invisible, and someone saw me anyway." He turned to Maya. "You gave your last $15 to a stranger. That stranger's wife left him $500 million to learn what you already knew." Richard's voice rose toward panic. "Called it insanity," declared James couldn't give $500 million to a waitress. James told him coldly, "I can do whatever I want. It's my trust, my company, my decision." Richard played his final card. "If you do this, I'll expose you. The board will vote you out. Your own sister will sign the petition." Victoria cried, begged James to think about the family. James replied quietly, with the certainty of someone who'd finally found solid ground. "I am. For the first time in years." Then James opened his laptop. Before this meeting, he'd asked forensics to audit 3 years of financial records. Projected a new document that made the room go silent. "Richard, you've been moving money. Small amounts, hundreds of transfers, buried in operational accounts. $6.2 million over 36 months. Stealing from the company, from Catherine's memory." Richard's face went chalk white. Claimed James couldn't prove it. James listed the evidence. Richard's signature, his access codes, his offshore accounts where the money waited like a guilty secret. Security entered. Richard, desperate, turned to Victoria. "Tell him about the medical bills, the debt, the—" Victoria, broken, admitted they'd needed the money. Richard said it wasn't really stealing, that James would never notice. James's voice went hollow. "You stole from me while I mourned my wife, while your sister, my wife, was dying." Richard was escorted out, still shouting. Victoria left without a word. The board sat in stunned silence, watching an empire reveal the rot in its foundation. Maya, shaking, told James she didn't want the money. He said it wasn't about the money. She asked what it was about then. He told her, proving that kindness isn't weakness, that seeing people matters, that my wife was right. I needed to remember how to be human. Maya told him firmly, "I'm not your redemption." He agreed. "No, you're proof that redemption is possible." Thunder rolled outside. Rain lashed the windows. The wallet sat on the table between them. James picked it up, showed her the photograph again. Told her Emma was somewhere in this city. He'd hired investigators, spent millions, found nothing. His voice cracked. "But you found me in a diner when I was no one. Maybe you can help me find her." Maya saw it then. Not a transaction, but a plea. "That's what you really want. Your daughter back." He told her, more than anything. Maya could have walked away. Should have walked away. This wasn't her world, wasn't her burden to carry. But she remembered. Sophia stopping for Mr. Chen in the snow, the philosophy that hands that help are never empty. She told James, "Tell me about her. Everything. We'll find her together." The thunder faded, but its echo remained. In that boardroom, a waitress and a billionaire made a pact that would prove mercy recognizes no class, no wealth, no wall that greed builds. 3 weeks later, Maya used her gift: attention to detail, memory for faces, patience that comes from years of waiting on strangers. She visited places Emma might go, coffee shops where young people gathered, bookstores with worn couches, art galleries in neighborhoods just starting to gentrify. Carried the photograph James had given her. Asked gently. Never demanded. One evening at a Brooklyn community center where Maya volunteered, she found her. A young woman led a support group for people grieving parents. Brown hair, Catherine's eyes, Emma's name tag. Maya's heart stopped, then started again in a different rhythm. She didn't approach immediately, sat in the back, listened to Emma speak about anger, forgiveness, the father she'd lost to ambition long before her mother died of cancer. After the meeting, Maya introduced herself carefully, said she knew Emma's father. Emma's walls slammed up immediately. "I don't want to hear it." Maya told her, "I don't blame you. I didn't have a father either. He left, started a new family, forgot we existed." Emma paused, curious despite herself, asked why Maya was telling her this. Maya said, "Because I spent years angry, and it didn't hurt him. It only hurt me." They talked for hours in a quiet diner, not Maya's, somewhere neutral. Maya didn't defend James, didn't excuse him, just listened. Finally showed Emma the letter Catherine had written. Emma cried, reading her mother's words, asked if her mother really wanted her to give him another chance. Maya told her gently, "She wanted you both to be free. Anger is a prison we build ourselves." Maya arranged a meeting on Emma's terms, Central Park, Sunday morning, cold but clear. James arrived early, pacing, terrified in a way board meetings never made him. Emma arrived late, defiant armor still in place. Maya stood between them, the bridge, the translator. Emma gave him 10 minutes. James said that was 9 more than he deserved. He didn't defend himself, apologized without excuses, showed her the trust documents. "I'm giving half to Maya, who taught me to see people again. The other half is yours, not as inheritance, as apology." Emma said she didn't want his money. James told her, "I know. That's why I'm giving it to you. Do whatever you want with it. Burn it. Donate it. Build something beautiful. Your choice. I just want to know you again." Emma asked why now. Why not 2 years ago, when she'd needed him? James told her the truth. "Because 2 years ago I was still broken. Thought money could fix everything. It took a waitress giving me her last $15 to realize the most valuable things can't be bought." Richard Preston awaited trial. Reputation destroyed. Victoria divorced quietly, moved away, sent James a letter he never opened. The board, embarrassed but intact, learned expensive lessons about trust. James restructured the company with profit sharing, ethics oversight, clauses about humanity that lawyers struggled to define. Maya didn't take the mansion, symbolic title only, a gesture of gratitude she declined to actually claim. Instead, James opened a foundation in Catherine's name. Maya ran it, helping families who fell through cracks in systems designed to let them fall. The first grants went to nursing school scholarships for single parents, the dream her mother never reached. The envelope labeled Dream finally filled, but now it was for others. The hand that once closed a door now opened it, not just for herself, but for thousands who walked the same road her mother had walked. Emma joined the foundation slowly, reconciliation happening in careful steps. James learned to leave the office before dark. Maya still worked at the diner 2 days a week, said it kept her grounded. The wallet with the photograph, Emma carried it now. Inside, a new photo added. James, Emma, and Maya at the foundation opening. Not family by blood, but something stronger. Family by choice. Sunlight broke through winter clouds. Snow melted to reveal green underneath. The first signs of spring. 6 months after that rainy Thursday evening, the foundation had helped 200 families. Emma and James had dinner every Sunday. Maya moved to a better apartment where sunlight actually reached the windows. The Metropolitan Diner where it all started still served coffee, still hosted small dramas between strangers. Maya's photo went up on the wall. Employee of the Year. She laughed when she saw it. I just gave someone $15, but everyone else knew she'd given so much more. The wallet now rested in a glass case at the foundation. A plaque beneath read, "In memory of Catherine Hartwell, who taught us that being human is the highest calling, and to Maya Rodriguez, who reminded us how." Visitors read the story. The diner, the rain, the $15 that changed everything. Children pressed their faces to the glass, asked their parents why an old wallet was in a museum. And parents, if they were wise, said, "Because sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest truths." Maya sat at her foundation desk, reviewing applications, choosing who to help next. She saw her own story in every envelope. Dreams delayed, kindness tested, hope hanging by threads. Her pen hovered over one application, a single father, 2 jobs, daughter who wanted to be a nurse. She stamped it, approved. Through the window, Sophia's photograph sat on her desk. "I'm using the hands well, Mama. Early morning at Metropolitan Diner, before the rush." Steam rose from fresh coffee. Maya tied her apron, grabbed an order pad. Someone entered looking lost. She smiled, asked if they wanted coffee. The smallest gesture. The only revolution that matters. One kindness. One human seeing another. And so it continues, choice by choice, $15 at a time, proving that mercy has a memory longer than hate, and that we are all just people trying to see each other through the rain. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe, like, and share your thoughts below. I read every comment, and your stories of kindness inspire the tales I tell. Remember, we are all just $15 and one choice away from changing someone's world. Choose wisely, choose well,